Hey loves, welcome back to TigeraGitana. My name is Abby and today we're going to be doing a very interesting video topic situation, as you can tell by the title, because it is a very complex type of topic. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I had a dream last night, which I woke up to this morning, that was very enlightening on some things, and so I wanted to make this video to kind of share this with you guys, because if when it comes to like Antichrist and dream work, you will find a lot of the time, like if you're trying to find information on it, or if you had some sort of prophetic dream with it, that you will find that there's a lot of different groups talking about different things, and it always comes back to God. In a majority of the time, it comes back to a Jesus Christianity setting of the Antichrist, and what that means, and the fear and all that stuff. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this in a different way, that might be a little bit enlightening to y'all. Because as much as I grew up in Christianity, I do not follow it. I know a ton about it, but I do not follow it. So sometimes when I get messages for certain things, they do come when it, like for this specific thing with the Antichrist streams, they do come in that format, so you have to address it in that format. So that's why we're going to be talking about it like this today. So I did have an Antichrist dream last night, which I'm going to talk to you about later on in the video. But before I do, I wanted to talk about a previous dream that I had, that was also an Antichrist dream, an Antichrist style of a dream, that actually came true. Because in my dream I predicted, well, I didn't predict, it was just like it wasn't a dream, but it was predicted Donald Trump's rise to power. Not saying that he is the Antichrist, because you will find during this video that I'm not going to be spewing gospel at you throughout this video. The point of this video is not that, because Antichrist type of dream work and prophecy dream work is not necessarily to say, oh my god, this is the Antichrist. It is more of a warning of power and how that is going to be affecting people. So I'm going to actually, I have my computer right here, I'm going to actually read you this dream that I had, and I wrote this on Facebook. This was from October 2005, 2011. That's when I had this dream, but I wrote it. I remember this dream. I remember most of my dreams. I know people say you don't remember your dreams. I do a lot of dream work, astrologically speaking as well. I have a very sensitive Pisces placement, so I do a lot of dream work, prophecies, also run in my family from my mother's side of the family. It's just a gift that we're very well versed in, but I also have I have very sensitive Pisces placements in my chart as well, so I do practice quite a lot of dream work, and I get a lot of messages from them. And because my moon is in Gemini, I tend to get a lot of prophetic messages for people, family members. It just runs in my family basically. So I do interpret them in different ways, and so I'm going to share this dream with you that I had. This is kind of a multi dreams in one, because the dream changed into two different things. One part of the dream had to do with my family, and I know what it meant. I knew what it meant the second that I had this dream. The other part of the dream, where was warning about the Donald Trump rising, that part of the dream, actually my mom and me were the ones who dissected it correctly. Everybody else was just like, you know, looking at it differently, but I'm going to share with you what this dream was, and then later on I'm going to be talking about the dream that I had last night, and we're going to talk a little bit about the details, the message within them, what I divined afterwards, and we're gonna get into all that. I hope that you guys find this video. I feel like some of y'all are gonna find this entertaining, some of y'all gonna be scared, and some of y'all gonna be like, oh my god. I don't want to list here. I really don't care about anybody's ridiculous opinion about this topic. I'm just sharing the message. I am the messenger, period. Okay, so the dream goes as follows, and I'm gonna try to say it in my past 2011 Abby voice. So I hope y'all understand. This does include somebody else who I tagged in here, because I used to just like tell, it's one of my friends who I used to like tell my dreams to. Anyway, so this is what I wrote. Maybe Israel can explain to me this one, because I don't understand. At first it was kind of cool. I had a dream where I was in this auditorium with a bunch of kids in school, and they were doing some Harry Potter show thing, and then it flashed forward to when my mom and dad and sis were in a van, and my dad was driving too close to a cemetery, so close the gate was slicing the mirror of the car. But okay, I'm gonna pause there because I am going to be explaining. Okay, you know what, I'm just gonna read through it and then I'm gonna explain what I was saying. Okay, so my dad was driving too close to a cemetery gate and was slicing the mirror of the car, but we could see the headstones perfectly, and they were all Dracula-ish, and creepy like. But it was weird, like the cemetery was pulling us closer, but the gate was the only thing keeping us outside. And then it flashed forward the inside to this church corridor where there were hundreds of pictures of, I guess you can say, different gods, but they looked like men who dressed up all Vatican like white, and Vatican like who had quote unquote powers, I'm guessing, because as I was looking at the wall of all the different people gods, this couple walked by and the guy said, "Careful." Then her necklace was magnetized towards the picture and it almost flew inside of it, but he stopped it, and then things started flying towards the picture as if to assure someone that he is a god and he has power. He was blonde in the picture and somehow sorry, hold on. He was blonde in the picture and he had someone below him like he was praying, but as he was praying, but he had his hand extended towards the photo. Then I woke up as I was looking at it. It was creepy, and I'm starting to think my imagination was out of control. But what I don't get is what it's telling me. Anyway, so that was my dream. Now I'm going to kind of break it down a little bit because there's some details that I didn't like actually write in here, even though it has some details already. Now, the first part of the dream with the Harry Potter thing, just forget about that part because that's not the important part. The important parts, one was the cemetery with my family. Now, I know what this dream meant. In this part of the dream, my dad was driving a van across the cemetery. Like, think of when, you know, the cemetery is on this side, because it was on this side of the road, okay? My dad was sitting here. My sister was sitting next to me. I was sitting here. And, no, I'm sorry, my mom was sitting in front and I was sitting behind her. Now, the important thing to know about this is that this is not the way that me and my family usually sit in the van. When at the time when we used to ride together in the van, that's not how we usually sat. I usually sat behind my dad. My sister usually sat behind my mom. So that was swapped over, and that is a significant detail. I'm going to explain why in a second. Now, the other thing that happened in this part of the dream is that my sister and my dad weren't paying attention to how my dad was driving, because he was driving like the cemetery was like this and the car was like this and the mirror was breaking. We were literally touching the wall of the cemetery as he was driving forward, and he was driving like regular, like he was just like, you know, not even thinking that he was doing anything wrong, but he was. So I noticed what he was doing, but I was looking at through the window, which my sister was sitting right here. I was looking through the window and I was seeing the cemetery itself, and what I saw was the Dracula style, like very. If you look at the angels and demons statue that's at the Vatican, that's kind of what I mean as far as the face goes. Like they're very demonic looking, and I was seeing the statues on top of the gravestones, basically like clawing at the ground, uh, almost just kind of like taking different people from the ground. So I was pointing at the window and I was telling my sister, I was like, look at what's happening, look at the window. And I was bringing her attention, and then she turned around and she saw it and she's like, oh wow. And I went to turn forward to tell my mom, but my mom already had noticed it. My dad, however, was not paying attention. This is significant because of the dynamic within my family itself, which gets, I guess, a little bit deeper. And for the sake of explaining the dream, I'm going to explain to you what that meant. My mom and me are probably the most spiritually as in regards to intuition and abilities. I'm not saying my sister is not, but at the time that this dream happened, I was the lighthouse to her. I was the one, because she was younger, so it was like I was the one telling her like, hey, look, pay attention to this. This is happening. This is bad. Look at what's around you. Like, use your intuition, like stuff like that. My sister was still very young, so it's not like it was developed in that way. However, me and my mom are very much intuitively inclined. My mom is one of the most powerful women I know. And so that connection within our family is very important, because my dad is probably the least intuitive person that I know, and he doesn't understand or work with or get those type of messages. He doesn't do like prophetic anythings. He's like on the Christian scale, he's just like the one that prays, reads the Bible, preaches, and that's it. Like, he's not very much inclined in that way. And so that's why he was towards the cemetery, and this was a significant point for me, because it showed how least close me and my mom were to death itself, my sister being closer to the cemetery because of her innocence and her not knowing, but me and my mom being closer to the actual road, where it was just like we can see what's actually going on. My dad being the actual fool in the situation, which, mind you, literally tells you my whole entire family dynamic as far as like life goes. So that was the significant part with the cemetery part, which I didn't want to explain, but just so you guys understand what that dream meant. And this dream came to pass later on, as far as like that scare on my dad's side, stuff like that. We're not going to talk about that today, but that part did come to pass. But the important part to talk about is the church part. Now, I basically had a dream where I was in a church. Okay, it was like it was a church, but it wasn't like one of those like churches that had like the glass windows and all that. No. It felt a little bit more modern. It was really tall, and there were pictures everywhere. I remember the dream like the back of my hands. Like, it's just one of those dreams that never have left me, because it was so like the messages were so like wow, like in your face. So there were pictures of men all over this church, and people were just kind of walking around almost like there were tourists in this building. And the pictures weren't like super big either, they were like small, so it was literally like a lot of pictures of men, and all of them, yes, were white, if you were curious. This is significant culturally, because as we know, the majority of people that have power, is significant power in I guess within governments and such, are white people, because that's just historically how they have grown. But yes, they were all white. And I was standing inside the church. I literally had just walked in. I was standing there, and I was just looking around, and I just noticed, like, my eyes just went towards this one picture, and I was just like, walked in, and it was to my left. And I just looked at this picture. It was on a table, and like it said in what I just read, he was blonde in the picture. He was also slightly like that tanned, that Donald Trump tan color. Um, and things were magnetizing towards the picture. So people were leaving kind of like coins and offerings and different things with different pictures. His was the one that had actual like coins and different things on it. And I just noticed like the reason why I got magnetized towards that specific picture itself was because it was actually pulling into the picture itself. And I was just like, what the hell? So I just kind of like, I was like, wait, did that just move? And then I just kept kind of, it just kept zooming into it. So the couple that came in and said careful, obviously different, messages, and especially because I didn't get to see their face, it just, I heard the voice, and they kind of walked away, and they just kept walking through, like touring it. And the point that I got from that part of the dream was the magnetization. That was the big part of the dream for me, because yes, there were all these pictures of men all around this building, but the one that had power enough to call in things from a distance, because that person was not there to, like have or emit those abilities. It was a picture that was emitting those abilities. It was the symbolism that was emitting those abilities, that this person was going to magnetize people from it almost felt like it was going to be from the imagery, from the outer message, which speaks to Donald Trump. Now, when I first woke up and I told my mom, I had written about it on Facebook, I was talking about it with my friends, because it was just like a very like interesting dream. And I usually, when I do dream work, I do talk about it with my mom and my sister. We'll like talk to each other. I'll call and be like, hey, I had this weird dream, this is what happened. And we'll discuss it, we'll dissect it, and see what's going on with it. My mom was like, straight away, she was like, okay, so this person is, you had that dream. That's the dream that you had. And I felt like somebody bad was actually going to be coming from this. But at the same time, it's really weird, because I felt like it was going to be him for a while, as far as Donald Trump himself, because of the way the picture looked, and because of that magnetism. I don't know why, but his name would come to my head quite often after that, and I just thought it was a little bit weird. But I just kind of moved on, as we all do, and let things kind of unfold as they did. And the magnetization is definitely there, as we can still see today. As much as you could, like, I could have definitely, we could have argued that is a very much an Antichrist style dream, because it kind of is. Donald Trump is definitely not the Antichrist, I will tell you that much. However, he does have powers of the magnification powers are definitely there, which is why he has the base that he does, and why he does the things that he does, and why he can get away with a lot of the things that he does. However, I just want to really quickly give a thank you to everybody who did the impeachment spell with me, because it has been developing quite nicely, and we did, make history of sorts. And a lot of betrayals and such has been coming of, like, just happening, and it's just been beautiful to watch, by the way, which is why I wanted to include that in the spell. I knew there was going to be some betrayal, and I needed it to come forward. I needed it to just be solidified, and it's just been happening, and it's just been enjoying every minute of it. Now, when it comes to Antichrist style dreams, because for some people they'll have dreams that are very like in your face Antichrist dreams, and then they'll have dreams that are like very subtly Antichrist dreams. Now, the one that I had last night was very not subtle Antichrist dream. And you're gonna be able to see the difference between the two dreams that I had after I tell it to you. This tea is so good. Actually, I'm just gonna hold this while I'm just gonna be drinking tea together. Oh, the Cauldron, by the way, Magical Pub is where my girlfriend took me for my birthday. It was amazing. The Bruja blog for that's gonna be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. So the dream that I had last night goes as follows. There was a first part of the dream which I'm not gonna say because it's not relevant to the main part of the dream. Now, when I woke up, and I have to mention this before I say this dream because I know there's going to be connections to the show, which is American Horror Story season Apocalypse for this. And I have to mention this just because there's a little bit of a connection between the dream that I had and the actual show. I watched the show last year for Apocalypse. I didn't really necessarily like it. I thought they kind of did it a little bit. It was a little bit annoying as a season. I also thought that the power wasn't portrayed as well as it could have been. There's some things that I just didn't like about the season. However, I do love that, Coven is my favorite season of American Horror Story. Season 3, 2, and 1 in that order are the best seasons of American Horror Story in my opinion. Granted, I haven't watched anything after the circus season, even though I haven't finished the circuit season either because I don't really like it that much. So that's what you need to know about that. But Coven is my favorite American Horror Story season just because there's things that I love about it, there's things that are annoying about it, but there's things that I do love about it as part of the show. Now, the dream goes as follows. I and my sister was also there, which is also significant. My sister does play a role in a lot of my dreams sometimes. So I was walking down with a ton, I want to say at least 25 to 30 women. They were all women, they were not men. And we were walking down this kind of, it felt like almost one of those kind of staircases through Italy where it kind of curved in from a side of the building and led to a bigger street. I know there's these kind of staircases. It wasn't a short one either, it was a wide one. It was one of those town ones, if you can understand what I mean. But it was a little bit wide, and we were walking towards this white building. No, it was not the White House, but it was a white building, and that is important to note. So it was a white building, and we were walking towards it, and we were seeking to enter because we knew there was something wrong there. Now, we were calling someone, and it was like a chant. We were chanting. Now, I can't remember the specific words that were used, but I know we were chanting very loudly. Very loudly, it was loud enough that people were starting to come from the sides around us to see what was going on, and we were chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting, and then all of a sudden he appears in front of us, and he's just a kid. He has brown hair. When I say a kid, I want to say he's in probably his mid-20s or something, or he visually looks like he's in his mid-20s. He's definitely not that old. He has brown hair, and he's standing there really mad, really pissed off looking. And we're chanting, and the second that we there's a point within the chant where it just called out, or it just showed his true form, and it was this just huge, way taller than him, and behind him it started to kind of come forward. So he was standing really angry, and then you just started to see right behind him kind of opening up with the wings, because yes, he definitely had wings. This very demonic angel demon looking thing right behind him with wings, black eyes. It looked like there was stuff coming out of his mouth too. I'm not trying to super analyze the visuals of it, because you have to, when it comes to dreams, I'm going to explain this afterwards, you have to pay attention to the main details, because you can get lost in some of the other things, you could get lost in the illusions. We're going to talk about it in a minute, but so yes, so he had wings, very demon looking, black eyes, and we kept chanting and chanting and chanting. People around us were starting to see what it actually was, okay? And then the chant changed into something else, and it vanished, and the kid vanished too, and then I woke up just like that. Okay, now to dissect this dream, one, I'm going to start off with this, as far as like what I was saying earlier with paying attention to the main details. When you're doing dream work, and I'm going to make a video about dream work a little bit later on, when you're doing dream work, it's important to pay attention to the main details, because you're looking for the truth, essentially. Think of yourself as a Scorpio in a Pisces world. You're just looking for the truth. Pisces rule illusions, they rule dreams as well, so they tend to hide the truth in different type of visuals. So you're basically looking for the messages within the illusion itself. The whole dream itself is an illusion, however, there is truth within the dream. So the details, the main details, is what you need to pay attention to. You can't like be like, oh, and there was a rock on the side of the floor. Yes, we were standing outside in the street, there's gonna be rocks on the floor. Okay, that's not the main details that you need to pay attention to. The main details that you can pay attention to from this dream: one, there were women. It felt very much like a coven. It felt very much like witches from around the world, to be honest. It felt very much like a collective unity. And as much as it felt very much like there were definitely all women, it was a collective idea going against this person. Now, when I woke up, I had made myself some tea, and as it was cooling, I went ahead and, pulled out my chamalongos and my cards just to connect with spirit and be like, okay, so do I share this dream with the public? The answer was yes. Is this a warning? The answer is also yes. By the way, astrologically speaking, this is actually this is a very good day for prophetic dreams, so I'm not really surprised. And it's a good day as far, because Uranus is playing a really big role today, and he is very futuristic, so he brings futuristic prophecies, so I'm also not surprised. So when it comes to this dream specifically, when I woke up, my initial gut, and I almost felt a little bit sick to my stomach, was that there is something brewing right now. There are some people playing with some darker forces, and they're trying to put them in power, okay? There are some people within the younger generation that are coming up in power and but they're using darker rituals to put them in power and to train them and to kind of almost attract that same magnetism that the last one had in many ways. I'm not saying that this is definitely like a United States power, because it's a problem, because it felt very much global in nature. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this, but I don't know if it should have been obvious, but the kid was white with brown hair. I do have to mention that. It's important to note when things like this are happening, because I feel like the message from that dream, if you watched American Horror Story, apocalypse, you know that the witches were the ones who took down the Antichrist. And it felt really weird because that's kind of how my dream felt like when I woke up. And I was like, because I had also called my girlfriend, I had texted her, I was like, I had an Antichrist dream last night and it was very intense. And I knew she was going to be like, you need to stop watching American Horror Story. And she's exactly what she said when I told her the dream. Especially because the kid had like long hair when he was like in his demonic form. I do feel like the spiritual warfare that has been kind of going on for a really long time is going to take a turn within the next upcoming years, because this is still something that's developing right now. It is not something that it's gonna happen tomorrow. It's something that has been brewing, and it's gonna take people who are not just committed to their own spiritual growth, but to the healing of not only us but the planet, and collective empowerment of each other's spiritual journey in order to combat this type of energy. Which is why I'm making this video in the first place. I know that this video is very much of a hard topic for people to take. It's a very scary topic for people to take, and I definitely wasn't scared by the video, more of that I wasn't surprised by the message. I do feel like while there are things brewing in the darkness that we don't see that are very negative, there's still things that we can do about them, and we have more power than people realize. And this is why I was laughing about the whole American Horror Story thing, because I was just like, it's the witches that beat them. And I don't know if that was a message within itself, and that season was supposed to be telling the masses of that, but it is an actual thing now. It's happening. And as weird and creepy and like as this sounds, to be like, hey, the enemy is playing with some darker forces, and they're definitely going to conjure up some demon kid to try to take over the goddamn world. It's still happening. It's still scary. It's happening. It's not fun. And we are placed in a position where we are actively taking back our power every day. We're actively healing. We're actively doing what is best for our spirit, for our ancestors. We're honoring them. We are building our army, our spiritual army, strong in order to combat this. So when we say the words and state the words and chant what it is that we need to chant in order to get rid of and send back the evil of what has been conjured up back to where it came, we have and carry the voices of all of our ancestors, tens and thousands of them, within those words. It's a very powerful time. It is a very powerful time for your healing. If you have been sleeping on your healing, you are doing it wrong. If you think that this is just a game, it is not. There's a lot of stuff currently happening, and in a few years from now, we'll be seeing a lot more changes within that, because there's been an awakening collectively on a spiritual level with my generation, and how the generation after us is seeing our spiritual evolution as well, and how we're taking back our power, how we're growing. There is going to be more spiritual warfare happening, okay? And so, because we've been playing in the past, we've been playing non-spiritual games in a way. They've been playing by themselves and winning. Now that they have opponents that are waking up and training themselves, because every time you do protection work, you're training yourself, and every time you pray you're training yourself. Every single thing you do to help yourself on a spiritual level, you have been training yourself and building yourself up. Now that this has been getting on a spiritual level, it is more actively spiritual warfare. And again, I'm not taking this as like Jesus is coming and like all this stuff, because at the end of the day, you know, Jesus himself, to me, he does not qualify or is the divine. He is a part of the divine, and I have a lot of beef with Jesus himself just because, as a deity, because that's how I see him. And yeah, this is gonna piss off every Christian that came to watch this video. As a deity, because that is what he is. I feel like he has done a lot of harm with his name, and has kind of let a lot of people do a lot of harm with his name, which I don't agree with. So I have a lot of beef with Jesus, but that's a personal note, because I grew up in, you know, the way I grew up and all that stuff. But I don't take this as, you know, oh, this is a Jesus thing and he's coming. That's not how I'm taking it. I'm taking it as, you've been telling us that white Jesus is going to be the one to beat this thing, and it's not. It's going to be a collective thing, because some people are actually conjuring up some very negative things to use as tools to affect the masses in negative ways. And we're at a point now where we're going to start taking that back, and we're going to start doing things the correct way. And I feel like this is why I wanted to make this video. As much as there's some things that I just don't share as far as dream work, I did want to share this video with you guys. And as much as I hope you enjoyed this video and getting some insights. I don't take this very lightly, okay, as far as prophetic dream goes and Antichrist dream goes. But I do hope that what you take from this is to stay and call in and call back your power, not only from when you pray, call it back from past lifetimes, call back your power from past relationships, call it back from anywhere that it's been taken from you, so that when it's time for you to chant the words to get rid of the evils that have been conjured into this world, we can send it back. Okay? So, as much as this was a very heavy topic, we can revisit dream work on a different day, because that's a whole different topic. Because, as I said, I do practice dream work quite often. We can definitely talk about this at a different time. I will see you guys in the next video. Also, I just wanted to quickly thank my 3,000, I was gonna say 30,000, but we're gonna be 30,000 soon, so it's fine. 3,000 subscribers that we now have on YouTube. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And I can't wait to continue to grow with you. Definitely check out the Patreon as well. They voted, this week's voted video is generational trauma video, so that's going to be filmed later today and posted later today. And I am also editing the monthly community spell videos, so they can see that spell work as well. But we're always growing over there, so definitely check it out. And I'm also going to be filming the class as well for this month, which is coming up very soon. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you a little bit later. Okay? Don't forget to subscribe.